Full cock, fully forward, half cock.
We've talked a lot about all those different positions on the 1911 with our good friend and coach David the Marine.
Let me see your war face. You got a war face?
But David, what is the purpose of all three of those positions?
Well, fully cocked is you're ready to rock.
Yeah.
You know, from here you pull the trigger.
Bang.
If the thumb safety's off, the hammer will go forward. If grip safety's pressed, that's off, it'll go off, bang. The purpose of that is to make it go bang. And when you're fully forward, you're fully forward.
And you have to cock if you want to make it work.
You can't do anything from here. Now, a lot of people think that when the hammer is fully forward, the firing pin is resting on the back of the primer. And that is not true. The firing pin is under spring tension and it is recessed back out of the breech. There's nothing touching the primer. Now, half cock, some people think that is a safety and a safe way to carry a 1911. One reason I think it's a safety, if you put that in, you pull the trigger, nothing happens. But there's a problem with this. Aside from getting here, I got one in the chamber, and I have to rack the slide to do that. That puts my hammer at half cock, so now I have to lower it. Now, the sear is what engages the hammer, and the sear is dictated where it is by where the trigger is. So what can happen, imagine this is the half cock notch of the 1911 hammer. This is the sear. It rests like that. It's a captive notch. You can't pull the trigger. It won't come out unless parts break. But that's a problem. But when this has movement based on where the trigger is, so if you're lowering the hammer and you happen to have the sear right here, you have basically the front edge of the cocking, of the safety notch resting on the knife edge of the sear, you have a problem. So if you pull the trigger now, it's going to fall, and it's possible, and it has happened, that can cause an unintentional discharge.
Okay, well, let's demonstrate and see if it'll happen.
I'm kind of curious. Gotta find that area. I mean, you don't want to do this on purpose, obviously. Yeah. But what's happening is people doing it by accident and not realizing it. Right now, I got the knife edge of each component resting on each other. I'm gonna pull the trigger, which you may not need the trigger pulled if it's resting like that. It could be a sharp jolt. But we'll pull the trigger and see. Did not go off. Oh my.
It did engage the primer. So it didn't go off because either there wasn't enough engagement from the pin to make it go off.
Well, I have good springs in my gun. But you could have a sensitive primer. You could have a softer spring for the firing pin. You could have a stronger spring for the hammer. The firing pin might be just a thousandth longer. And suddenly you got an accidental discharge.
Now, for the record, let me just say I'm not against 1911s, but I didn't grow up shooting them, so I'm not as much of a fan of them as some people are. But this seems to be one of the, I don't want to call it a design flaw, but one of the things that can go wrong. Is there a better way?
Well, there is. One thing about the half cock notch, like I say, it's a captive notch. You pull the trigger, nothing happens. So, hey, it's a safety. It, locks the trigger. But we had an issue we just talked about. So they came up with what they call quarter cock. It's a quarter cock shelf as opposed to a notch. So if you pull the trigger on this one, it'll fall. Now, it hardly look like it's cocked at all because it's just barely away from the firing pin. It performs the same safety function. If the hammer should slip for whatever reason, it'll get caught before it fires the round. You don't want a full auto 1911 in your hand. Trust me on that. But so you pull it now. Well, that can't be a safety. The trigger moves and drops the hammer. They're right.
So let's perform the same hammer drop test.
Okay, it is on quarter cock. Hard to see, but it is. I got one in there, and I'm so confident. I'm taking off my ears because the hammer's not back far enough to build enough momentum. So we'll just see what that looks like. Just like that. Do it. 1, 2, 3, and 5 times total.
Let's see what the primer looks like on this one.
And there we go. There's nothing there. I didn't think there would be. But, you know, if you have a gun like this, it might be something for you to test at the range to make sure your guns are fully functional and working the way they should.
Whether it's half cock, full cock, quarter cock, and whether it's a 1911 or some other gun, make sure it's guns for everybody.